Hello, how's everybody doing? Welcome again. Glad you guys can make it. I appreciate you guys joining us here on ZENcast. We are going to give it another go here with the kind of new format. I got some revisions going on as far as format. So if you see something where the lettering's too small or you don't like something particular placement, let me know. I'm not seeing everything you're seeing it in real time. So I just want to make sure that you guys can get the most out of these ZENcasts. I hope you're doing well, keeping safe. I'm ready to jump in. I think you guys have challenged me on this patch management for air-gapped. We're gonna run with it. You'll hear the story about it as we go along. It's actually quite simple if you have zones set up, but my labs are giving me some issues. But we'll carry on through it. We're gonna get through some housekeeping first. As you know, ZENcast is on the YouTube channel, 9 o'clock Mountain Time, North America, every first and third Tuesday of each month. So you can subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll get a notification if you're logged into YouTube and when we go live. Still working on getting those email calendar settings set up. So YouTube, I haven't found it for YouTube yet, but we're working on that. So that way you can get reminders in your calendar. Anyway, be sure to log in to join the conversation. I've talked with a couple of you already this morning. I appreciate that. Good to have you on. You can put an @ in front of the name, and you can direct message that particular person. And if you see in my presentation an exclamation point, put that in the chat, and it'll actually give you that URL or whatever that command is, so that you don't have to download the presentation or wait for the presentation to get those URL links. Because if you're watching this as a recording, obviously you'll need to download the presentation to get those URL links or copy them off the page. Again, subscribe and notifications. If you like these, let me know. And there will be links and presentation PDF will be in the recording. If we, for instance, I'll kill two birds with one stone here. Let me go to my chat. Where'd my chat go? Oh, I didn't adjust this. Hang on. Let me go like this. Nope, wrong one. Let's go here. Like this. If I do a exclamation PPTX, so if you're in chat right now and you could see chat, so for instance, in this presentation, I have an exclamation PPTX. You should be able to type that in, and the system will respond with the URL to get this particular PPTX for this presentation. So that way you could download it right now if you wanted to. It's ready to go. And then subscribe. Also, you might want to set your autoplay to off so it doesn't kick off and go other places if something should disconnect or glitch. And then there's one more. Nope, that was it. So, and then the quality for 720/60. And I've been requested to have some type of a schedule, which is probably good, so that we can plan for future, not only presentations but also future guests. So I've put these in for the next half of a year almost, so that we can kind of plan for these, and it gives me a basis of going forward. Also, these may change. Should we get a release of ZENworks 2020 Update 2, we'll probably throw that in, right? And shuffle these around a little bit. So we want to stay current with all the products as they come through. So should we get some update, we will probably present those in lieu. But we'll try and get you that ahead of time so you're aware of what's coming. So this may change a little bit as you see it. So the ZENworks suite, some of the latest things, it's on update 1. Update 2 is being worked on. There was a webinar I talked about last time about 2020 Update 1. The UK or the European Union did a series of webinars, and of them was Update 2, included some of Update 2. we are also getting ready to present one formally over here. So you'll see that come in, and we'll post that as it comes up when we get a formal date. But as we get farther into the webinars, you'll see a link where you can actually go to those recordings now. They had one on the 14th. Okay, so just so you know, and update 2 Alpha 1 is out there if you want to participate in that or try and load it up and give some feedback. We would love that. We'd appreciate that feedback. Okay. Again, we're on update 1. ZNews is back. As you guys know, I've mentioned it a few times. If we go to configuration, actually homepage, it's right at the bottom here. Okay, so you get ZNews here. This one is a particular survey so that you could take for Gartner. So if you're able to do that, we would appreciate your bragging about ZENworks the best you can, or at least giving them the honest feedback that they're looking for. Imaging driver updates are out there from November 2020, and then you can always find those out on Patch Finder. And Patch Finder is here. You put in your ZENworks here, down to ZENworks, and your version. We'll go there, and you can see the different updates down below. So don't forget about Patch Finder. It's a quick way to find some of those patches that you may be looking for. OWS Suite, as I mentioned last time, the Open Workgroup Suite is offering an extension pack so that you can get the full complement of the ZENworks Suite with your purchase of OWS. So check out that particular link there. If you look at that link, you'll see that it'll actually get you some desktop containers, some asset management, full disk encryption, Service Desk, the standard edition, a couple of licenses there, and a discount on patch management. So know that that's there. If you have OWS and you want to expand your ZENworks, you wish, gosh, I wish I had desktop containers. Look into that and see if that'll help you. Desktop containers 20.11 is out. 20.8 and 9 I think had an issue, so 2011 is now out, up and downloadable out on your page. There was a webinar, a go-to webinar about desktop containers and connected backup, which are Micro Focus products. So being able to take care of those at-home users and being able to back up what they're working with at home. Also ZPM. Patch Tuesday highlights, January 2021 is out there. They've been doing a great job keeping these updated. So this gives you very important information. Whether you have patch or not even, I think this is really good to review so that you can see what's going on if you have different patches for different OSs. They cover a wide variety of different products. So not just Windows OS, but others. So be aware that that's there because it can help you out. And then there was a nice article deploying Windows 10 feature updates via ZENworks Patch Management. That's out there. This is actually was presented or launched, I think last year actually. So, but it was a really good article on being able to update and packaging. And then there's a story out there regarding patch management. Since today we're covering patch management, I thought I'd throw this in here. There's a story about how Meijer integrated software ZENworks Patch Management into their software delivery pipeline. So great article out there, a good success story on what they did and how they're using it. So check that out if you get some time. Service Desk, we're on version 8.2. Remember, the cadence is every 4 months, so February is coming up. You'll have another online update for security patches out there. So be aware that that's there. 8.2.1 should be coming out soon. There's also a nice Open Horizon conference webinar that's out there using ZENworks Service Desk 8.2 for ticket management and enterprise store. A nice walkthrough. I really appreciated viewing this and seeing that out there. It was a nice walkthrough for Service Desk 8. And it wasn't just, it was a nice build to using the Ultimate Store, but it was a nice build for ticket management and how they talked about um, how they built up their teams and so forth. Okay. ZRS version 7.2, again, appliance online update security is coming up in February. Be sure to check that if you have ZRS. And then ZMM, not the ZENworks Configuration Management Mobile, but ZENworks Mobile Management, the legacy version. Support ended December 2020, just so you know. If you need to get off of that particular platform, let us know. We'll do our best to get you over to ZCM Mobile Management, which is a full complement of everything in one pane. So that way you're using ZCC for all your devices, including your mobiles. Okay. Also, ZAM, Management for Education Gartner Peer Insights. It has an article out there about the rating of ZENworks Asset Management and what's going on in that scope, in that realm. Real good article there. Here's a webinar series that they did in the European Union. Protecting your data while working at home, which covered desktop containers. It covered the backup. And then managing your devices in your enterprise also included some of the Update 2 components. And then Enterprise File Sync Share is coming up February 11th. So you can register there with that particular URL, and they'll be posting those webinars. The first one is already out in the webinars, but there'll be others out there on the community forums. And then Micro Focus Bangalore Technical Conference this week is the second week they're having it. It is Central European time, so it's a snoozer for me. I didn't get out there this morning, but I know a couple of actually our guest Darren was presenting this morning, so he's been up early on the ZENworks products. So there's some things out there you can still register to see some of those things. There will be limited slide decks because of the NDA agreements, but you do get a chance one-on-one with developers. I noticed that this week is more ZENworks this week than it was last week, so you still have a chance to catch some of that, and the agenda info is there as well. And I talked about the ZENworks desktop containers and connected backup, and that was from Ron Van Herk. You can see that. The deep dive training for ZENworks Service Desk 8.2 for ticket management and enterprise store. Oliver Vormwald did that one. Nice presentation. That was that Open Horizons one, so the direct link is there. And then if you want to check other things that happened at Open Horizon, I put the link in there. So you can always, again, in chat, do !OHM, and it will give you that particular URL. Okay. Surveys. We have 2 surveys. IT professionals know, and that's what was in that ZENworks Z News. Let us know how ZENworks works for you on that first one for Gardner, and then a ZENcast progress survey. So if you go to that particular link, it would be helpful for me to know how we're doing with ZENcast and what you're looking for in the different sessions and other things if we have to, format and so forth. I'm getting the ideas from you. I want to make this your forum, so we're doing the best we can to try and tailor it to your needs. So thank you for that, for those that have already submitted those. Today's agenda, ZENworks Patch Management is where we're going today. So we are going to ZENworks Patch Management. We're going to be talking about, you guys challenged me to do an air-gapped solution. I got this in the survey and said, let's do air-gapped solution. And so obviously there's a need out there. And this is on a zone that's isolated. So I took it up and probably should have taken the challenge for patch management first before going to the air-gapped solution, because I have to learn a little bit about patch management in order to do that. But I was able to do it, and we'll see how well my demo goes today. I'm not in patch too much, and that's why I brought some guests with us, Darren Vandenbos and Susan Perrin. We're going to introduce them in just a second, but I just want to let you know that had some issues with my zone, so we're gonna see if we could tackle it today and get this done. It was actually, this particular document here is an 8-page document that explains it quite well. And part of my problem was I was thinking I was smarter than the document, right? I was trying to, not reading every line and making sure, oh yeah, I see where they're going with this, and doing things ahead of time. Well, save yourself some grief, and step by step, take it slow, and it'll work just fine. So anyway, we have Darren Vandenboss, I know, is on the line. I don't think Susan has been able to join us yet this morning. We got a lot of things going on over in the support side. So Darren, how you doing today? Well, thanks for being here. I know patch management is really taking on a lot of new feature sets. I mean, CVEs. You got different vendors coming in, like the Zoom now. I mean, you're bringing in new patches and malware in the future. You're really building this product, this portion of the product up. Sure. Certainly, and just when I think we've got it nailed and we got this great product that everybody could use, we come up with more ideas either from the forums or from back end engineers, or and we make it even better. So I'm just really impressed over the years how this part of the product has just grown. So this is great. So I'm glad to have you aboard. You're the product manager of ZenWorks Patch Management and a couple other areas. Sure, sure. Excellent. It's been a great to work with your engineers. Your engineers do a great job. I appreciate that. Uh, they do. And we got a couple of things in chat. Let's see. Yeah, Bruce, the India conference, but then again, when they're on the U.S. side, right, they have to get up early. So I guess it was just our turn for that particular conference. But great information. We can't hear Darren, it says. Darren, you still can't hear Darren? Let me ask. I'm surprised they can hear me and not you. Oh, hi, Susan. Hang on. I see you coming through. Well, that's what I'm wondering. Hang on a second. That's not good. Hang on. Can you hear guess? I have a delay, so I'm going to type it in there so they respond a little faster. So let's see what happens. I might have to. I'm having a feeling that I need to add another mic. Let's see. I'm surprised. Okay, so they can hear me on the mic, but they can't hear you. Let me see. Let me add that. I think I know what I need to do. My mic. Let me go audio. Audio input. That's a bummer. And we're going to do audio. Still can't. Hang on. Let me adjust this. I'm sorry we didn't do this well ahead of time before we went through all of that introduction. Um, Let me add something here. I need to add audio output capture. Actually, add source. Cancel. Okay. All right. Let me adjust this for everybody. Give me a second. Input, add source. I have add. Okay. I have that. No, I already have that. Delete that. It's like, what is MS Teams using and what is my system using? Input, audio, input capture. Add, add. Okay, so Susan, hello, good morning. Anything there? Give me a hello. Okay, yeah, no, we got nothing there. Hang on, let me go output. Add audio output. Add source. Default. This is what I think I want. Okay. Now let's see if give me a little hello, Susan.
Hello,
Yeah,
Susan.
there we are. I had one thing that was off. And Darren, you're there?
I am.
All right, let me see. Let me ask them. Sound check. Can you hear my guests? So we should be able to. I think the recording will have that, but let's see if they come back, how they come back. So Darren, you're part of Endpoint Security Management, right? Could you give a little shout out on Endpoint again?
Sure, absolutely. I'll make it shorter this time too, so that we can get to the other
Thank you.
things. But yeah, so I'm product manager for typically what we refer to as the ZENworks security products. That includes patch management, endpoint security management, including the new anti-malware that is coming out in endpoint security management in update 2, and then also the full disk encryption product.
Perfect. Yeah, we have. Fortunately, the recording will have all the entrants, but we do have sound now. And hey, thanks, Don. Thanks, Bruce, for responding. Um, we've gotten through ZENworks Patch Management. We're in an air-gapped solution. We have Susan Perrin with us, who's backline support for ZENworks. We also have Darren Vandebos, who's here, a PM for Endpoint Security Management. And we're going to get it. One thing I want to praise the community for is the different things that uh, uh, they asked for, or they're using the ZPM community. For instance, the show last device patch applied. There's a lot of great things out there that that your community is putting out there so that others can be helped by it. So I just want to make sure I put together a list. I went out there and was lurking to see what was going on out there, and there's some great stuff out here as far as adding the Zoom US to the patch channel. Um, and I'm sure that's because of people working at home. So, and then how to troubleshoot patches not installing. So that I really appreciate the community, you guys out there that are listening, being able to put this stuff out here so that others can learn from it. So we try to monitor these and be able to answer any questions out there. So thank you for using the forums. I think your engineers also do a great job, Darren, of going out there and checking this stuff out and helping out. So um, today we're going to talk about patching an isolated zone. I'm going to turn me off as far as the webcam. We don't need that. If I can find it. There we go. There we go. Yeah, we don't need that. Okay. So we're going to be patching an isolated zone that's air gapped. And what kind of what kind of industries have we seen to utilize this type of? What's the purpose behind this? Don't you just have a zone? And I mean, what constitutes an isolation? Why would you do that? For those that aren't familiar with the isolated zones.
Paul, I assume that question's thrown my way?
Yeah, anybody in the
Okay.
audience. Sorry, Susan or you?
Okay, great. Well, Susan, I know works with, I believe, some different air-gapped solutions or has, but primarily air-gapped is for anybody that has to obviously has to have a very locked down system where they don't allow general access out to the internet for purposes. We've seen that happen in both local and federal or national level governments. Some customers there, military, in organizations, as well as financial institutions. Oftentimes have zones that just you don't want to have open up any ports or anything to allow access into their back-end systems.
Obviously, security-wise, they're just off
Yep.
the grid, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're gonna cover a little bit about that today. We're gonna also try and do a demo and see what's going on. I have a zone here that's 2020, and I have some patches that I've brought down. Let's cover a little bit about the basics. And this is that for the audience. This is that 7-8 page article that we have documented that works really well if you follow it to the letter. You have a collector zone which has access to the internet, and then you have an air gap zone, and then putting some type of transfer or sneaker net between them. So in this case, we have ZAM only, or a Zen admin zone connected to the internet. And one thing that you need to do is have similar things connected to the internet as in your isolated zone, so the patches will come down, right? I mean, if it doesn't know you have something in the isolated zone, it may not bring that patch down. So you have the collector zone, which is an open network. And so we have a primary server here, and you basically tell the system patch air gap collector true, right? So you have this setting in your system variables on this zone, so that it knows that it's going to do that particular job, okay? And then you have removable media. Any way to get from one to the other, and what I've done in mine is I change my IPs between the two different zones in my VMs. So I use a workstation as part of that transfer, and we'll see that process. And then, or you could use USB or SneakerNet or however you decide to do that. But remember, that isolated zone doesn't touch anything outside its environment. So you need to be able to get in there somehow, either physically or through having some sort of change, IP change or something. So, and then finally, the air gap zone is isolated. It's a closed network. We have digital water, which is which is a zone name, and it's our isolated zone, and we'll see that in just a second. And for the isolated zone, you also want to say, okay, system variables. We have an air gap license, which is you can get from your sales rep. Give your sales rep a call. They can get you that particular license. There's no extra charge for that. And then air gap path. Where is it going to be retrieving these from? Because you're actually taking data or patches from a particular location on the open zone and then putting it to a particular location on the closed zone. And that's where the top one here is Windows. The bottom one here is an example of a Linux or appliance. And then you also tell it patch air gap server is true. So you are a patch air gap server. So we're going to go through this process, if we go to, so let's go ahead and look. I want to go to this guy. And this is my 10.1.1 is my zone for digital water, which is my isolated zone. So I can't get outside of this. So what I did is I created a VM that I can just change IP addresses between the two, and that way I can transfer the files if needed. So I went ahead and I did that. Basically, let's go over to the non-air-gapped. Let's go over to our Zen admin zone, and by telling it over here, by telling it air-gapped collector, it's going to create a folder on our primary server to actually copy those patches down. So let me go out there, see if I can connect here. We want to log in, new site. And so if we go to OpNovel, ZENworks ZPM, you'll notice that there's an air gap, and you notice it was created today. Okay, so once I said I'm now an air gap collector, right? I'm an air gap collector, and I ran the process to capture patches under security. I went ahead and did an update now. Okay, it went ahead over on my policy or on my security patch policies. Now the question I have is for Susan or Darren, and this is again my not completely going through this as often as I should. When it's all the patches in zone A, the collector zone, will be in that air gapped. Is that correct?
Paul,
Yes.
I think it's a good idea to distinguish between patch metadata versus the actual patch content.
Oh, good idea.
So when you're doing a subscription update, what we're pulling down is information about the patches, basically scripts that will determine the vulnerability of various devices for those patches.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you see when you go to the patches list. And that we're pulling down all of your Windows patch information, metadata, or the vendors that you selected.
Okay.
The actual patches, if you'll notice on the screen that you're on right now, some of those patches are cached.
Yes.
Right? So when you cache those, you're actually bringing down the actual patch content, which patches can be very big. So we're not pulling down the actual patch content for all the possible patches in the feed.
Okay.
Only when they're cached, and they're cached by the patch policy as they're needed, as they're applicable to the devices that you have registered. So the air gap will pull down the cached patches as well as the patch metadata.
Gotcha. So it knows about all of them. It just doesn't pull all of them down.
Yeah, that would be overwhelming amount of content.
Sure. And that's where that was my challenge as I started the introduction of this process. It was like I should have worked on, my challenge should have been learning patch management first and then doing the air gapped, because those are some of the details that I didn't have until I started going through this process. So you explained it quite well. Thank you very much. So we basically brought in these particular cached. We have a couple errors. I haven't had time to look into those in my demo, but we've brought down some cache stuff, because I noticed when I first did, I had my patch policy, but I hadn't applied. It basically brought down close to nothing, and that's because I didn't have anything cached yet. So one of the main things, which I think I put in one of my my slides here, was being able to, I didn't put the cache in there. Okay, so yeah, making sure that you have them cached, the ones you want to bring over. So we've cached these, and if we look at the here we have the air gap, and if we look in here we have it set up in the way that it knows that it's a air gap server. And correct me as I go along if I got anything wrong. So I appreciate your critique on this. And so I transferred it to my workstation, and then I transferred my workstation. I go over to here, this particular workstation, and then I logged into, changed my IP and logged into my 10 network, and then uploaded the air gap here. And so this has basically the same content I brought over. One of the things that I did have a problem with is I ran out of disk space early on. Yesterday I came in and was doing some stuff and realized that I had too much cached, and I was in a zone that I had been working with patch management in, and it had a lot of cache stuff, so it was all coming down, and it's like, I can't do that for my demo, it would take too long. So I have transferred some of the stuff. This morning I transferred this stuff from this particular demo here. So it's 73 items with some that are that did fail, and we can then move on over to this guy. Where are we going? Come on, right there. Over this guy. All right, let me go here. There we go. Not there. Here. Well, if I can get the right one, hang on a second. Did I close it? No, it's right here. So here's my zone, and he's transferred everything over. So now this particular zone should be available to bring those patches to life the way I see it. We want to go here. We can cancel that. We can now log into here. Oh, all right. Let's try again. Oh, I'm in the 9443. That's better. All right, let me scroll this back over. All right, so we have configuration. We have our security and patch subscription, and just by doing update now, oh, I haven't even started this service yet. Start service, because I just brought this zone up today. So we currently have, if we look, there were no patches, but if we do kick that off, we should be able to go over to security. Oops. We'll go over to security and patch. I don't have any patch policies in here, but we should be able to go to the patch security dashboard, right, to see these patches come up, if I'm correct. This will take a minute though. If we do download details, oh, maybe I need to do it again because I just enabled it. Yeah, that's why. In progress now. This should show up in progress in a minute. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, so you can check the status under patch download details, right? We haven't seen that yet, but we will. Another thing you can do is you can tail F the var op log ZENworks loader messages log. So let's go do that. Let's go over to, let's see where I am. I'm right here. this a little bit. Let's do TLF. And we should be able to see some data coming. Scheduling is there. Okay, so you can tell that. We'll come back to that. And then be sure to make sure about firewall exclusions. I know there's a TID out there that I saw about this, but are these exclusions for patch management itself? I believe they were patch management downloads, weren't they, Susan?
Yeah. So
Paul, I believe you're talking, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Karen.
Go ahead, Susan.
I think you're talking about in the documentation, we have a troubleshooting section.
That is it.
With a list of firewall rules.
Yes.
Essentially, the patch metadata comes from the Avanti site, whereas when you cache a patch, the actual content tends to come direct from the vendor.
Gotcha.
I'll let Darren take it from there.
Susan, I think you handled it perfectly. That's what I was going to say. The firewall exceptions are simply what you need to have open to be able to download content, signatures from our patch repository, and the content from the different vendor sites. So.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, it's coming from multiple. I mean, there's data input from multiple locations. I do have a question that came in from the audience. If you have a curated set of reference devices in the internet-facing zone with limited software installed to extract patches for transfer, would you then cache anything that was listed? And I think anything and everything. So I'm wondering. I think it was similar to my question, and Bruce, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if, let's say, in my primary zone I have Windows 7 and Windows 10s, and in my or I should say Windows 10 1609 and Windows 10 20H, and in my isolated zone I only have 20H. When I transfer those cached packages, will I be caching the 1609 and the 20H?
So Paul, say that again. Do you have both? Do you have both 1609 and 20H devices in the open zone?
In the open zone, and then in the closed zone, I just have 20H, and I only want to patch the 20H devices in the closed zone. And will it actually, when I do the air-gapped transfer, right? When I do, where I go out to that air-gapped directory and move it over to the isolated zone, will it then only? It'll bring over all of those, right? All of the cached.
The doc is pretty clear that it says you really want to have them be the same. So the same types of devices in the open zone as you're going to have in the closed zone, right?
Yeah, I saw that, and I was thinking that a closed zone would be for specialty. A closed zone would be for a special process that they don't want anybody to touch.
In my experience, the closed zone is the zone.
Okay. All right.
When I'm working with a customer who's using patch management, their entire office is in a closed zone.
I see. Okay.
So think of the closed zone as the zone. I mean, these are the devices that need the patches. This is your work environment. The collector is just a guy that's going to do the work of getting this stuff that your zone needs.
Gotcha.
So that you can pull it in.
I was thinking of the opposite. So no, that makes perfect sense. So he's just a tool. The open zone is just a tool for the closed
yes.
zone. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Way customers use it.
Yeah. Great explanation, Susan, and that's exactly right. Another point that we should make, Paul, is that For example, for Windows 10, let's take Windows 10 as an example. Regardless of the version of Windows 10 that you have in your open zone, it's going to bring down the signatures for all Windows 10 versions. So let's say that you only have 1909 in your open zone. You're gonna get the update the signatures for the 1909 as well as the 2004, the 20H2, the 1803, whatever is in the repository, and that's because with Windows 10 we bring down all of those signatures. Now remember, signatures are really small, right?
Sure.
So we're just ensuring that you have all of the Windows 10 signatures available in your system, especially because updates happen regularly, and you may be moving from one version of Windows 10 to another. The same is actually true of Windows applications, right? When we talk about like third-party Windows applications. So if you have Adobe or Firefox or whatever it may be, Evernote or Zoom, right? We bring down the signatures for those applications into the zone if you have any Windows devices at all, and as long as you have those vendors selected in your content to download, right? You can turn off a vendor, in which case, this is actually a misconception that people don't understand. We still bring down those signatures, but if you have a vendor turned off, we actually just disable those signatures so that you don't see them. You're still getting them in your system. The fact of the matter is, and I continue to repeat this, the signature are so small that they take up, they're fast and they don't take up very much. So when you then set up the open system as a collector, all of those are put into that basically transfer data set that goes over to the closed system as well. So you're getting all of those signatures, and they're going to be brought in again. Where you want to be more selective, obviously, is in terms of what content you download, because as Susan mentioned before, you can, and you saw on your as you set things up, you can quickly overwhelm or grow your content, beyond what you really want to have. So that's why what Susan said is very accurate. The closer that you can replicate your actual closed system, your internal system to, replicate in your external, your collector system, what you have in your internal system, then you can do exactly what the types of things that you did, and that is set up the patch policies you want so that content can be downloaded automatically, and then because everything's put into that data set and content set that's moved over, and then basically once that's moved over, it's just like that data set is a mini patch repository and a mini vendor content sites, right?
Sure.
You put that in, and then it's just sucked into the air-gapped system.
Just because of the process that
exactly
that you have set forward in that doc. So
exactly.
Yeah, and what you're referring to, and I did. You could do selected here is what you're referring to, and then if I hit apply, I think it shows up with the other vendors. Nope.
Only after the first subscription update is complete, and I think you're having some problems in your demo lab
I am
with the closed server, but we'll troubleshoot that. maybe after the YouTube and
Yeah, yeah, we'll do that. Again, I shifted. I don't know if you were on. I shifted to another zone last minute, and that's one
never
thing
change
not
your
to do.
demo midstream.
So that's what I did. So I kind of knew it, but
But
I ran out
no,
of space. So
as they mentioned in the doc, the selected vendors don't actually show up until the first successful subscription update,
yeah, I remember that now.
and then it collects the vendors, and then you can disable them as needed.
So this is what you're referring to in my open zone, being able to select these.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm having. I had everything set up on my other one and then shifted midway. So I apologize for those that are watching. Um, and let's see. So we have firewall exclusions. I thought this was fabulous. Your security, and then you have your show view tutorials over here, which thank you for that because it kind of helps along the way. And this is for overall patch management and stuff, but I think this is a great add to have these in here. And then there's a tit out there, patches uninstall after 999 days, just something to look at as far as that goes.
Yeah, nobody should have to worry about that one. That's kind of an old one.
I think it is fairly old. And of course, again, I was searching out there for things that I was looking for, so I thought I'd post that, but it's probably, oops, let me go back. So Air-Gapped Zone, the Windows OS platform patches for Air-Gapped Zone. So again, the best practice is, like Darren said, and you said, having them both as close to identical as possible, so you only bring in what you need. And that's where the similar devices come in. You can get your license from your sales rep. You can specify a specific vendor or OS, which we just saw. And then don't check enable non-applicable patches. I put that in there. Why did I put that in there? I'm trying to think now. It's over here.
Well, it's in the doc, and you
It
don't
is.
want more than you need. So
I think that's where I was going.
Always a good rule, yeah.
Thank you.
In fact, there's a warning even on that page that sort of says not a great idea to use them.
Yeah. Oops. Sorry. Cancel. I wanted to at least mention why I said that. Only applicable patches here. So that's where you'd find that. Is that on by default? I don't remember.
I think this is about patch policies. There's another setting for patches in general.
This one here.
About not applicable. Yeah, you don't want to enable that.
Yeah, that's the one.
And I think they have a warning right there about even aside from air-gap, it's not a recommended setting.
I was wondering if it would prompt me with a warning, but it isn't. I remember seeing it in the doc. That's why I put it in here. I just want to make sure we pointed out where it was. Thank you. And then patch subscription rights to whatever directory. It doesn't matter what directory you decide. It could be like you told me the other day. It's like anything temp or temp.anything. It doesn't matter as long as you put that in the configuration. Had a few questions. I don't see any. If there's any questions out in chat, go ahead and post them. I don't see any more questions yet. So we already covered the collector does a duplicate repository download, and I think you explained it great. There's metadata and then there's content, and it only brings down the content that's selected of the metadata. Disk space, one thing which I shifted mid zone is because I ran out of disk space, and so you need to monitor the disk space and make sure that you have enough disk space. Does the agents have to be the same version in the zone? That was a question I came up with. Do you have to, and I want to say I don't think it matters because patch is universal across the 17 and 2020.
The components that do analyze and remediate from our partner are updated when you update the primary server and then pushed out to all the agents as part of the patch bundles, the discover applicable updates and the patch agent.
The DAU.
So yeah, so when you run the DAU, if your primary server has the latest analyze and remediate binaries, which you will have gotten when you upgraded your primaries, then it doesn't really matter what version of ZENworks the agents are on.
Gotcha.
Assuming it's a supported version, of course.
Of course. Yeah. And this, we covered this. We beat this one like a dead horse. The collector zone is normal and collecting too much. So that was a two-part question. But what would you designate? Can you designate a collector primary server, or is a zone? I mean, how do you, for instance, this particular one is my external. Yeah, I can okay that. Let's go here. So system variables. I tell it it's an air-gapped zone. How do I determine where the air gap goes? Probably from your subscription service where you tell it here, right? It's going to be this guy.
You're asking which primary is the collector?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not a matter of which ZC you're logged in, but it's a matter of which one is doing the subscription service. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think if we talked earlier about the collector is really a tool, I guess it would be pretty much a single primary zone at that point for most of the way the customers are actually using this.
Right, that's where I had that reverse. So yes, you're right. That would be a tool, a single outside zone tool to do the collection. You wouldn't have more than one primary for that. So that makes sense. Patch highlight Tuesdays, we covered that. Patch Tuesday highlights, we covered that. And ZPM forums are listed here for those that are out in the audience. I don't know that I'm actually going to show you. I transferred. Let's see if we can do. I got something messed up on my zone probably. Let me look. Go here. I was going to try one last time. We are in the 1010. So we are. So update now.
I think it's really trying to either go out to the internet and not doing it because your variables aren't set, or it's looking in the wrong directory, or
Right.
we may need to troubleshoot a little bit, which is kind of hard to do live.
It is hard to do live. So I was hoping to at least show that. I was able on my other zone yesterday when I was practicing. I was able to do the um, watching the loader messages, and it was coming down, and then it went to a screeching halt when I ran out of disk space. So yeah, we'll troubleshoot this afterwards, and maybe we'll do a recap next week when we're back into policies. So I apologize to the audience for that. That was kind of a bummer, but I do want to stress a few things. One is the dashboard. Dashboard does a great job of displaying. And let me get over to my other device again. I want to go here. Let's go. We hadn't seen this. What's this doing? This guy. So this one is the external, but if you go up to security in your patch dashboard, it gives you some great information as you're going through your patches. Patch policies, patches there. So I found that I was looking for, and this is just a general discussion, I was looking for like a query for the database, but I found that this is much more functional. So there is a query here, for instance, which I ran, and this is my open zone. If you were looking for disk space, because obviously I was running out of disk space and wanted to know why. So there is a query here for checking out size of bundles, a couple of generic database queries. These don't really affect anything, but do display things in your zone. But again, I found that by looking at the dashboard, you get more comprehensive look. And being able to do the patch tracker, I wasn't able to get that up. So patch tracker actually watches as. Give me an overview on patch tracker, either Darren or Susan.
I'll let Darren pick that one up.
Thanks, Susan. Yeah, so really what the patch tracker is it lets you, it's pretty kind of says it in the name. It lets you track the status of a patch or multiple patches that you select. So the example that I like to use is, let's say that you want to track how the Windows 10 the January 2021, so this month, how the Windows 10 cumulative update is being rolled out across your system. And let's say that you have 4 different versions of Windows 10. You've got all of the last four released, H2, 20H2, 2004, 1909, and 1903. You can actually go in and click that select patches. In that search box, why don't you go ahead and type Windows or cumulative update for Windows 10. And there you see that that it's been filtered to show the cumulative updates for all the different versions. If you mouse over, you can see the full one. So it's got both the 64-bit as well as the x86, the 32-bit. You can then select which patches you want to track as part of that. So just go ahead and select the top.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll actually reverse your. You're on the 2020-08. I think you.
I forwarded it a bit.
Yeah. Go back up to the top. So we're on the 2021.
I see.
There you go. And just select those. Go ahead and click OK at this point. It adds in. You give it a name. We'll just do the January 2021 update. Or Win 10. There you go. Perfect. The trend chart only works if you have enabled the Vertica database, and that's because keeping trend data, so keeping snapshots of daily data over time, takes more disk space, but it's also a performance hit, right? And Vertica is a more performant database for doing displaying data in the dashlets than hitting our ZENworks relational database, right? So you can set up the Vertica, and then what you would see is a daily trend. Without that, what you see, what you're going to see is the current status of this. So go ahead and did you click apply on that?
Clicked apply right here. Yeah, patch status.
Okay, so apparently we didn't select a cumulative update for any device that you have in. Do you have Windows 10 devices in your system?
I should, but I wouldn't. I know that they're not. I think they're the 18 something. So that's probably
okay.
Why.
So if we would have selected 18, then what would have happened is it would have shown. You can mouse over that and see if.
So I don't remember if it's 9 or 3, but they're both 64. We'll just try that.
There you go. Try that.
And I lied again. We can go look. But basically, you're tracking the.
Yeah. So what the tracker will do is it will when all the devices report back their patch not patch status, it will show you the number of devices that are patched, and it'll actually say that you still have like 250 out of 500 devices that are still unpatched, and it will show you those unpatched devices down below. You can kick off if you wanted to do a manual remediation. You could do one right from there, or you can just track it as your patch policy is applied, and so forth. Now, obviously, the advantage to this over simply going into the patches list and looking at it in the patches list is that you can see across multiple patches this way, right? You can see if you have those 4 different versions, you can see the status of your devices for or those patches, those 4 patches across all of your devices, rather than having to in the patches list look at the patch not patch count and figure out those out individually, right? So that's I think that's a really good example of one of the ways to use it. You could also use it other ways. For example, let's say that you had a set of it could be used for anything. You wanted to track your browser patches, right? And patching and stuff that way. So
you can actually see a product update instead of just a patch update by grouping them.
Exactly. Grouping is definitely one way to look at it, and I think that's one of the ones that our customers use the most. But I'm sure there are other examples out there of ways that customers use it, because it's very flexible.
Sure.
You can have a single patch in there. You can have multiple patches, and so forth.
Sure. I did have a question out. Jose mentioned, besides dashboard and CVE details, are there any other fundamental differences between patch in 2017 and 2020? If not, what are some of the improvements coming down the line?
Other than the dashboard and the CVE details, or the inclusion of the CVE between 2017 and 2020, though that's really the primary changes between 2017 and 2020. We wanted to expose a lot more information through the dashboard, and then also bring in through the CVEs the ability to look at it from a security perspective, a vulnerability perspective, not just a patching perspective. So those are the primary things. I'm trying to think. Of course, 2020 released a while ago, so I'm trying to think of the other things that we brought in. But we brought in some additional functionality. For example, being able to apply patches on shutdown is in 2020.
History on superseded patches.
History. Thank you, Susan.
Right.
History on superseded patches, so that you can know that if a vulnerability does come out. I always point back to like the WannaCry. I know that's a couple years old, but it came out in May of 2017, and it had been fixed it was exposed in May of 2017. It had been fixed by a patch in March of that same year. At the time, we didn't have any way for customers to know if they, because Microsoft came out and said, well, if you have that patch or we didn't have a supersedence trail for customers to be able to see if they were covered. So that's now taken care of as well.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, Jose.
Paul, can I throw
Yes.
in a couple of thoughts?
Please.
Just some internal tips and tricks. Not sure if we documented enough, but in my experience, when you first select the patch subscription server service and enable it, it's often necessary to restart the ZenLoader service before it's actually going to work.
Oh. Okay.
Another thing I wanted to point out is if you go to the security and then go to patches. This is just a real common question that people don't always know. By default, we have not patch selected, so people will do their subscription update. Maybe they forgot to restart loader or something like that, and they'll say, well, why don't I have any patches? Then they'll restart loader and they'll see lots of activity in the loader log, but then they'll say, why do I still not see it? And the answer is because in the subscription update, we download the patch metadata, but until the devices have actually scanned and run the Discover Applicable Updates, you're not going to have any information about the patch status.
Right.
So if you uncheck everything, if you have not patched checked, you're actually looking at, well, which devices are showing the unpatched patches, which until they've run the Discover Applicable Updates post subscription update, you won't have any information about patch device status.
Right, because nothing's checked in. Yeah.
Right. And because we don't recommend the not applicable, most people will have that grayed out. So the only way to view all the patches is to uncheck. You know, don't tell me what's patched, don't tell me what's not patched. Just tell me everything that you've downloaded in the subscription update.
And in this case, this is metadata and not the patches themselves until we actually cache them.
But until you see this patched and not patched start populating, you haven't yet gathered any information about which devices
need what
are vulnerable versus already patched. So
Brilliant.
those are two common questions for, why did I do my subscription update but I don't see anything?
Sure. No, that's brilliant. Thank you for that.
Paul, and just a note on that, Susan mentioned the having not patched selected, because that is the default when you come in. We defaulted to that because typically that's what customers want to see is what are my devices that are not patched. But right there, if you were to select patched along with not patched, you'd end up in the same situation until you've run some scans, because we don't have, as Susan said, we don't have any status back from devices. So by selecting both of them, you're actually saying, show me all devices that are either patched or not patched. And in this case, we won't show you any devices because we don't know the status of those. Right. So as Susan said, deselect if you need to initially. Deselect everything. Yeah. Initially. Yeah. Until you've done some scans in your system.
Inventory
and start
scans.
No, patch scans.
Or patch scans, I mean. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's run as part of Discover Applicable Update.
The DAU. Yep. Yeah. Perfect. Oh, that's great tips. And that's, I know you prompted me on that a couple of times last week, Susan. It's like, oh, uncheck that not patched. And because I hadn't done any device scans to let the system know I need these patches, or I've already patched these for those devices. So that's great. Thank you for that tip. That's awesome. So we have a couple of the loggings, and it's pretty much standard logging, loader messages, service messages, mostly loader that I've noticed. And then, of course, where to find those particular logs. Looking out for any other questions that might be out there, out in chat. Are there any questions for these fine people that we can hit them up with? And then next week I'll do a little, next time I'll do a little recap with a better zone setup. I don't see any. We're going to wait just a minute after that question because we do have a 60-second delay. But I appreciate you guys coming aboard and giving those tips and helping me get through this. It is just a 7-page, and I know people out there that have done that very successfully. I was just working with the zones that have been used for many other things and got into some bad news. So I appreciate everything that you guys have presented here and shown. I think they have a good idea of what it is. We gave them all the information we need. I don't see any other questions in chat at this time. So any other last comments you have for the audience about patched or air-gapped or endpoint security?
Paul, I just thought I'd take a second because part of the last question on the patch was what's the difference, on the what's the difference between 2017, 2020? What do you have going forward? So just a heads up in terms of going forward. For the update 2 release that's coming out, you won't see a lot of changes in patch management, because our primary focus, and I've been using the team for that, has been for the anti-malware that's coming out in endpoint security management. Post that, we're looking at some things that in terms of probably a transition of the patch feed to a new patch feed, and also provides an API on the client side that improves the scanning speed of the device. So update 3 is where you will see the next major enhancements come into patch management.
Okay, good. Well, malware fits into security, right? So
definitely into security, just not under patch management.
Right.
So.
And will that be when you go? Will we still be clicking on security in the ZCC for the malware stuff, or?
I think you mean anti-malware.
Yeah.
We'll joke there.
The product is it's in ZENworks Endpoint Security Management. We titled it ZENworks Endpoint Security Anti-Malware. That's the product, but it does provide malware threat protection. So tossing around the malware, the anti-malware. But it's malware, it's protection against malware. So yeah, when you go to security, Paul, on the in terms of the configuration, there will be some anti-malware configuration things. You go to the security dashboard. We'll have dashlets on the security dashboard that shows when the last time a malware scan occurred on the device, what the current status of each of your devices, so whether or not it's seen any malware threats in the last 24 hours, in the last 7 days, in the last 30 days, how those were handled, whether or not they were resolved or they're unresolved, just some things like that. But it'll all fall under the security umbrella.
So so under security, that's great. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to try and quickly restart that loader, but I think I've burnt out my zone enough. So I'll give that a shot, Susan, and I'll get back to you on that. But thank you for that. It's good to know that we're constantly progressing and improving this product to secure the endpoints as we move along. Darren, Susan, I appreciate your time today, being able to come aboard and give those extra tips and tricks, and hope to have you on again. I don't have any other questions in chat, so I think this is a goodbye for now. But I appreciate all that you're doing. Your teams are doing great.
Thanks, Paul. Goodbye for now.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
All right. Bye, Darren. And that's all I have. Here's a list of the ZENcast schedule coming up. Next time is more policies. I'll do a recap on this and show the second part, I guess, of the air-gapped. Probably need to restart that loader because I haven't done that at all yet, as Susan mentioned. And we'll hit on to more user and device policies. If there's any particular user or device policies, there was a question from Mohammed. Is there any info about anti-malware vendors? Mohammed, I don't have an answer to that.
Hey, Paul, I'm still on.
Oh, Darren, yes.
I'm still on. So when Mohammed, maybe you can clarify that a little bit. When you say anti-malware vendors, we are partnering with a anti-malware vendor. Is that what you're referring to? We're partnering with them for our scan engine and the security content. Is that what? if that's what you're referring to, our contract with them is interesting. That they are also obviously in the anti-malware, antivirus security space. As a matter of fact, they're a top 3 solution themselves. Usually rank, depending on the latest tests and stuff, they rank anywhere from 1 to 3 in that, and then they're a top 2 OEM provider. They're actually, from our perspective, we're far and away the best OEM provider, which is important to us because the quality of the OEM provider directly impacts our support for our customers and stuff. So we're very pleased with them. The interesting thing about the contract is that I can't talk and I can't name that vendor in a public forum. I can have individual conversations with people. So what I would ask you to do is just send an email to Zen, that's ZEN, at microfocus.com, and that goes to all of the ZENworks PMs. But I'll see it and I'll get back to you, and I can communicate that vendor that we are partnering with.
Perfect. Yeah, I know there's some NDA stuff we have to watch.
Yep.
Well, good. Okay. Thanks for hanging in there and seeing that question for me. I appreciate Mohammed for putting that last one in there. I know we're on a little bit of a delay, so we got that in. I hope that answers your question. Just email zen at microfocus.com and they'll continue that conversation. And then, of course, you can always email me at paul.pedron at microfocus.com, and I'll be happy to answer whatever questions I have as far as from support and stuff. And if you have things about ZENcast you wish to do, or you want us to cover, please feel free to go to that survey or email me as well. So at this point in time, I think we're going to call it a day. I appreciate you guys showing up and joining us and having some interactive conversations. I do hope that you stay safe out there, and appreciate you. Hope to see you next time. Thank you.